Well, good afternoon to everybody, and I'm really happy to see all you guys here, and even those out there. I just want to say, I'm glad for the educational part of learning and wanting to challenge the world to make it better. I mean, it's really is important, and by coming here, on the ground and seeing it firsthand, feeling it. Rather, it's the wind touching you, the sun, the earth, makes it more learnable than if you're in a classroom, and it has to go back to not just my people, but all the people that we were biologists. We were all these things prior to colonization. And it's kind of sad now that we have to sit back and learn what we were already, from somebody else that is more destroying the earth, than really them saying they're taking care of it. And for them to introduce new types of way to take care of the earth has never been done before. I mean, they don't know the results of what it's going to be, whether it's going to be favorable or not. But we know for the fact that the old way is the most favorable one, of how the earth existed, because from how the Mother Earth existed, really created us to be caretakers, created us to care. But through colonization, it crushed all of that. And so that's what's scary, for me today when we look to the future of how our kids are being raised, with modern technology. Because even with us, we're bad with it. I mean, I think in this world, there's things that has to be police, has to have policies to make sure that they don't go over those lines. But when they're not police, they go over the lines. And I think technology is a big part of that. That right now, it's an animal that doesn't have a leash. And so that's what really scares us here. Now, being here, I just want to say to you all that here in San Carlos, in Arizona, the southern part of America, before America, right where you're at, is where the last wars ended with America. This is new and old. So you're in a place that's new and old, meaning that we're new to the new ways, meaning the colonization, but we're still old to the old ways, the way we feel inside. So, which is something that we have to struggle with, but it's something that we can't let go. And that leads me to the birth of America. It's sad that I think not only here but around the world sometimes wrong education is done. There's never really true education about the way we should be, the way the world should be, the way the economy should be, the way relationships should be. It's sad that we don't have an educational way of teaching that. But I think with what we're doing is the way. I mean, this is why I'm stepping into this, because it's a worldwide education that's taking place where we can help each other. So another perspective is saying that you guys come from the old ways, older than us. The European country has experienced so much already of colonization of what it's done. And it's important that we really learn from the European world, or continents on the other side, what happened. Because North America is moving fast to be destroyed, and moving fast to probably be even worse than some European countries. When you would think America would know better, would know how to resist in destroying the land. I mean, you would really think that. So I remember when I was first going to Europe, my mother telling me, an elder lady, telling me that, so you're going to the other side of the world where these people came from? And I said, yeah, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go talk with their governments. She goes, well, tell them that their people that they sent here are misbehaving. Because on that side, they're the old ones. So those old ones should tell the American people over here to behave. And I never thought about it from that perspective, because they are the oldest in Europe, and if anything, it's like children who came here that were disobedient. But then from that point, it takes me back to how America was created, or not created, but how America was founded and what it is today. So I go around this country, teaching and speaking, and now it's a part of, also the universities and colleges, that the deception, the word deception is what America has to work on, because America was founded on deception. And if there's going to be any kind of healing and any kind of improvement, then we got to go to that deception. We can't ignore it. If we ignore it, then the foundation of life will never be hard like this table. It's weak. And so many ugly things will happen because there's no foundation. And to give you an example, when we introduce ourselves, you introduce of what country you came from, or where you were born, where your seed is at. And so with me, American people, now I'm only talking about those who say they're American people, not European people, America. It's really important for me when I talk to white Americans and I ask them, who are you and where do you come from? I'm really happy when they say, well, on my father's side, I'm an Italian. On my mother's side, she came from England. And my grandparents from Europe was in New York. But then as I graduated, I came this way. And I'm here in Arizona and I live in Phoenix. I'm really happy to meet a white American who tells me that. What really scares me is the white American that says, I'm an American. So where are you from? No, I'm an American. That is a deception. That is somebody that's not rooted. You cannot make yourself something that God didn't make you. God made you, the Creator made you from somewhere. So here in America, for us Native Americans and for me, is that it's really important that I create that friendship and that bond knowing where that person came from. But not with one that says they're American and they stop there. This is the rhetoric that you see in America right now happening to all these white people who look foolish, that think that they can create a race, and there's no foundation to that. And those are the ones that worry me about the future of this country. Because it's important that we know where we came from. It's important that we know how we originated. It's important that we know that, because from knowing that, every step that you take, you respect. So, just like you came here, and I witnessed today, you came into my house with a blessing. You probably came here already with blessings. It's the same thing when I go to Europe. I go through a ceremony of blessing myself and let it lead me to where I should go. And when I go to Europe, it's not for me to push things down, it's for me to learn and listen and respect in these places. So, I've seen that with you today, but those who call themselves Americans don't think like that. And that's where it's scary, because if we know where we originated from, then we have respect for all things, because we know where we came from, and we know where we're going, and we know that we're going to a different place to where we weren't born there. So even here, you came from Oak Flats. So I'm born in the mountains. So in Apache, we call it Zif.
What?
Zif.
Zip.
Zif Shikunli, meaning that I live in the mountains. So that means that my birth, my root is in the mountains. So when I go from here to Oak Flats, I stop at Oak Flats because that is a sacred place. But not only do I stop there for that reason, I stop because I have to go into the valley. And the valley is a whole different terrain, a whole different place to where I wasn't born there. So I would have to say to the Creator, you know, that I'm going there, watch over me, and I'm going to come home. And I tell him, probably 1 day, 2 days, I'll be back. And so I journey into this desert, a place that I wasn't born from. And I do what I need to do, respectfully, and respect the people who were there before. And then I leave and I come back to the mountains, back to my place. So when I say about rooted, and I talk about, you know, we need to know where we came from, and we can't lose that. And so when it comes to America, and those who created America to be what it is, lost all of that. So even though they think they're Americans and they're from here, you know, they haven't even rooted themselves. They remind me of Phoenix. I don't know if you ever watch news sometimes where a wind comes in and a tree falls over because the root is not deep enough. So to me, you know, they should learn from that, because even their trees in Phoenix that they plant, that's not even from there. When the wind comes in, they fall over because it's not really rooted. And what I'm saying is that that's like the weakness. The weakness when you're not rooted. And when you're weak, you want to disguise your weakness. You don't want anybody to know your weakness. And so again, it comes back to America, how it was founded.
So how do you feel? I found I always get very upset in American academic conferences when these Americans that you describe, then they talk of people who are minorities. So now Native Americans became a minority and the white Americans are the Americans. How do you feel?
Well, it goes back to the deception.
Yep.
You know, they have to put deception where truth begins to reveal itself, and then they have to come in and block that. I worry because it's how many people believe that, are still believing it, and that's the scary part. And it has always been scary for us, but in the last 2-3 years, things have changed to where now Native Americans are beginning to have national attention, because that's the truth. So, I guess to not be stuck there like a pool of water that doesn't move, we need to move the water. And so I find that in the work I do is that we have to move the water so that we can move the pollution out of the way. So the deception of America is the pollution, and we have to move that out of the way with truth. So you know, you have a lot of different feelings from not only the deception but the untruth, the hurt. I guess really anything that is defined underneath of what hurt is really describes the feeling of Native Americans and when Americans do that. But I think we are at the time now that we're not sitting still, and there's a lot of movements that are now taking place. So yeah, you know, they're going to have to put deception. They're going to have to plug every truth that's coming out. They have to plug every hole, but we're seeing that they don't have enough to close it. But we have to keep doing what we're doing. So, you know, getting back to the birth of America is the one thing that, you know, I think a lot of countries can learn, but probably already know, because a lot of the countries have already gone through those kind of deceptions from colonization. But you have to look back too to see how your people have colonized, because that becomes even a greater issue when you may have a good idea, a good sense, but then you see the majority touching what this evil is. So let me just break that down real simple. So there was a time that Geronimo, like your leaders, our leaders, no different in that change of the time, when a ball, like a baseball, rolled to the little boy. So the little boy was watching the soldiers throw the baseball back and forth. And so here comes the ball, and the little boy is going to pick it up because he's watched. So now he's going to pick up the ball and throw it back. But then that's when Gorillate, which is Geronimo, says, don't touch it. Because if you touch it, it's going to change you forever. So the little boy doesn't know what to do. Do I touch this ball or do I not? But at that time, there was only so many people could see the future of what was going to happen. And so now today, a lot of us has touched that ball and has thrown it back. So it changed us. And so when it comes to colonization, we've seen how our people have assimilated. Because it's really coming back to what's easy and what's hard. So what we say is that it's really hard to be an Apache because every breath you take is a reminder of who you are and what your responsibilities are. And it has to tie into with religion in your spirit. Because then you have over here, and nothing against them. Everybody, I'm not judging anybody's religion. Everybody has a religion. But I'm just saying that sometimes in the practice and the principle of it, you got to question it sometimes. So over here, you can have another man tell a sinner, 10 Hail Marys, don't sin anymore. And then they go out, the following week, they're back in church again. 10 Hail Marys, I'll do it again. So there's an easy out, but for us, there's no easy out. And I think that's the real big difference because that will keep you from assimilating, because assimilation is colonization. Colonization today is corporate leaders. And that's kind of the road that it leads to. So when America was founded, and this is what they don't tell people here, this is what you don't learn here. When America was founded, we knew from learning them that they were here for all the natural resources. They were here for the copper, gold, silver, anything that was valued back in Europe. Because now today you go back to European history, there was a big fight of colonization, conquering, taking this and that, and who had the power for the emperors, for the kings, So no different here. A lot of them took the resources back. They didn't stay here. But it wasn't until there was enough people for them to figure out, hey, we could stay here and make a country of our own. We can make the new America. So from that point, from what we see as documentations, from what we read as old ledgers, that they lied to Europe to bring more people. But told a different story, that this was the promised land. This is great land, great this, great that. But they didn't know that the first, second, third wave of people that came from Europe were killing all the Native Americans, were taking their lands. They didn't say that over here. So when a lot of people came, they had this fantasy about Native Americans, they had this fantasy about America, that it was open land, great. Oh, look, hardly any Indians are these first people, but they killed them all. Because we got to remember that there was a federal policy that had 90% of our people eliminated. 90% of our people were killed. And so to clear up the whole land for all that they were lying to in Europe. So this is where the deception of America was born. So that's why today white Americans, because they don't learn the real history, they don't know that they're living under a deception that was lied to them. So it's hard for them to comprehend that they're on stolen land. They stole, they killed. They can't comprehend that because the first three waves of people who came here in America never shared it, never really told them, because they had to lie to bring more people over to America. So that's what I'm saying, is that when those first laws, those first territories were created, it was against us. And that's the kind of, if America is going to change, it has to go back to the first federal policies, the first territorial policies, because a lot of that still exists today. But America does not teach that in their institution of education, from high school to college. It's like a cake. They'll just teach the top, the frosting, but they will not teach the inside of
That's
the
very
cake.
true.
Yeah.
With one or two sentences about, not in detail.
Yeah, so they're not going to learn either, and so this is where, again, why what we do threatens America, because the younger Americans are beginning to learn the truth. So we have to keep out there so the younger white Americans can learn what their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents didn't teach. And so it's a process, it's a hard road, but we got to keep on this road to make the changes, because the difference between us and the European countries is we can't take back our country, because the big difference, if you read or learn the theory of the people who were here, that were colonizers, made the mistake in Europe by not killing all the Africans off, by not killing all the Indian people off. If they would have killed 90% of your people, what you see here in the United States will be the same way in India, will be the same way in Africa. So they learn from that if we come here, then we need to eliminate these people. So they learn from Europe what they should do here. And so they did it, because of the oceans that divided the continents. So a lot of this was not going to get back to Europe, what they were doing here in this country. So that's why it makes it sad for us that we will never be given our country back. But now we have to get really a lot more, not intelligent, we already have that, but a lot more into their system of how we can change their system so that there is fairness, like they preach around the world in this country. So that's the new fight for Native Americans, indigenous people that live in this continent, because we don't have those numbers to take over the country to start any kind of great movements. But now it has to be educating not only the white Americans, but every other people who came across that now are Americans. We have to teach them. But they all fall into the same problem of wanting the American way, the dream of the America, to be an American, the richness, all the stuff they want to be. And so we have to be the ones to tell them that's not how it is. But everybody that comes new want the American dream. And yet it is not a true American dream. It's a deceiving one. And that's why it's still here. And that's why, I will say that it's important that we do what we do so that somehow our voices will get heard around the world, that America isn't really what they say they are. And I think from there, what I believe from there will be a lot of healing that will come to the planet, because indigenous people all around the world are no different than us. We're brothers and we're sisters, But once we all make a stand, then things will change. It's kind of like Donald Trump right now. If America don't stand up, this America is going to go haywire the next 4 years. If they don't stand up. It's kind of the same thing around the world. Is that if we don't stand up together and not be afraid, then we are going haywire in this world. It's affecting all over the world. So it's a scary time, but it's important that we understand that what laws say, what history say, and it creates the character of a country. It creates the character of the world. But if you're learning deception, then that's what the world is. And so being the last people in the United States and seeing how the formation of the United States is, it scares us, because now it makes us understand the European countries too. Because if we were still heavily populated and we're able to take over the government, would we act like the other European country and still be bad with the environment? You know, those are questions that we have to ask ourselves, because if our people are assimilating, that means that they'll keep up all the pollution, all the destroying, you know, all the contamination, you know. So those are the questions that we have to ask ourselves. But when we look at the other side of the world, we worry. Because, you know, Japan, China, to us, those are like indigenous people too. But they took over their country, but their government is still not good with the environment, you know. So this really ugly evil that comes from colonization, comes from corporations, from the greed, and that goes back to that ball. We all touched it. So around the world, this evil that exists through destroying the earth for profits makes us all dirty. So now we all have a chore to clean ourselves. I mean, and that's going to be through our kids. I mean, we all have to be on the same page so that our kids can be the ones to begin to clean the world. But if we don't say what we need to say about that, then, you know, we're just as bad. And that's what I tell the people here in America in my travels in Native American countries, is that, you know, you have to start telling the truth, because we gotten lazy, we gotten weak, we are now part of that dirt. But because we know it and we sense it, we see it, then it's time for us to start cleaning. And we can make the white people clean up too. But it's going to have to be their kids. It's going to have to be the truth of America and the world. But as long as we don't do that, then we're not helping anything either, you know. So that's why, you know, I think when it comes back to the institution of education, it's really important that these things are included. Because you in here, you may have jobs already, or you're eventually going to be a leader, or the younger ones underneath us are going to be. If we teach them these things, then they are going to begin to hold back this disaster. But if we don't teach them what they need to know, then, you know, it's our fault. So I'll give you an example. I go to the basketball game. You guys know basketball, right? So I go to the basketball game, and my children are yelling at their children, dribble the ball, pass it, shoot, you know? And I'm looking at them like, and I go to the second game, and my kids are doing it to their kids, like, and I'm looking at my children, my older ones, and later I tell them, I said, you know, so that you don't have to yell in the gym, yell at your kids, why don't you practice with them on the weekends? Show them all the things that they should be doing in the game. So when you go to the game, you enjoy the game. You learn their mistakes, but teach them, you know, when they're not playing. Because when they're playing, you're confusing them. But if you really want them to be good ball players, teach them. You know? So it's the same thing about what we're all trying to do, is that if the right education is taught throughout the world and here, then those children will do what needs to be done. So I think, you know, one of the big things I'm going to be doing in the coming years is really attacking the education. Because there's got to be truth in the educational system. Because when they teach about economy, they really teach you that I have a business, you have a business, and as soon as your business falls, I'm going to take over your business. I want you to collapse. As soon as you collapse, I'll take over. And then I invest, I get bigger. They don't teach you, hey, help them. Help. And so when you go around the reservation, I think maybe in some of your places are the same, is that it's hard for us to see a business fall. We help them. We keep helping them until they make it. So we help. But in the mainstream, they don't help. So they teach you a different way of economic development, and they don't tell the kids, you know, that we're and you could see it in them. Later when they become adults, they have jobs, they have business. You see them waiting for a business to collapse. They don't help. So, you know, that's what I'm saying, is that in the educational system, that's just one. And then when it comes to the environment, when they teach in schools about environments, it's more towards the way corporations want you to learn. so it can accommodate them. It's not about really sustaining life. It's about the corporation's need, but they don't teach you that in school. So there's a real argument out there that by the time they get out into the world and they're working, and by the time they realize that it's time to retire. And the reason why I say that is because in the work I do, I have people that are close to retirement now want to help me, and they only got 2 more years to retire. But they spent all their years supporting and doing the work for corporations, not for humanity, not for the earth, not. And then it goes back to federal policies, because that's the other thing that we all have to deal with in every country, is the federal, and in our case, the federal law here, the government. And so it's so simple that all these people who are elected to a government can change it. But no, because they don't know the basics about what we're talking about right now. They were not educated through it, and now they're leaders, then they go and make decisions that are crazy, because it goes back to the revenue of a country, the minerals, of what it means to them. So it's all conflicting, but it seems like they realize that those majority would realize it when they get older. But when they have the opportunity to do something, they don't do it. So, so there's 2 factors, like I said, is that one, I can only talk about America, I can't talk about the other countries, but in America is a deception. Is one thing that we really have to work on. If we're really going to improve in America, and America should be what it should be, it should be a leading country for the rest of the world, then we need to fix it. The United States people need to fix the foundation that the deception came from. Once we fix that, then there'll be a lot of good things begin to come from that, which will naturally go across the world. So I'm, I pray I get a chance to see the work in progress. But a lot of it's going to start with institutions that provide learning, and I think that's why for me I'm really happy to be here and be a part with the university, because it has to be taught, and as we all go out and reach into our own little circles, we're all doing the teaching. So so the way I think is, when you guys all leave and you all go back home, you're in your circle doing it. So little do they know, the colonization through corporations, little do they know, a seed has been planted, and it's now we're watering it. But we also have that choice to not do anything. We have that choice of going home and saying it's too much. I'm going to live this way, and I'm not going to worry about it. Let other people worry about it.
It's not bothering me.
Yeah, because it's not bothering me. I'm fine. You have that choice too. And it just seems like too many of our people have taken that choice. But I'm not going to be angry, because it does come back to education. It does come back to what they were taught. And if they were taught the right thing, then America right now would be a whole lot better place than it is. And we are a prime example by you guys coming here to San Carlos, because we're still prisoners of war. I mean, we still are. So the African people could have been given through a legislative bill that was in Congress to give them freedom. But with us, no, we're still prisoners of war. They have not given us the freedom. And that's a big difference. And that's why I'm saying, how can America say what they are, but yet we're still prisoners of war? We've not gone home yet, because this place that we're in right now was a prison, then became a reservation. Told you stay here and live here now. So imagine you, for no reason, going to jail to a prison with your family, and then now they tell you you're not going home. Now make this prison your home now. Raise your children here. I mean, it's the same thing here. It's the same thing, because now those people had to stop, come to a brick wall, hit it, stop, and now they have to adjust their whole life, and it produces, something that we were not accustomed to. So now there's that struggle. So that's what I'm saying, that if America is really going to improve and get better and be a leading country to help the rest of the world, then they have to come back to the foundation of how America was created. And that's all the deception, because a lot of those laws that affect us today, even affect the white Americans, comes from that era. It has to change. And so the only way that that's going to change is that the Native Americans have to be at the front. I hate saying it, some people in America may not like it, but no, we're the only ones that they cannot argue with. They can't tell us to go back to any other continent. We're from here, And so we need to be at that table to make things better. And that's what threatens them. That's why they're so threatened by Native Americans. It's like a time bomb, and it's eventually going to go off. But America can make it easier, or they can make it harder. And so I think our process is to make sure that they make it easier, so that the change in life won't take the hit that it took before, but that's through the children. And that's why when people ask me, why do you have so much energy? It's because it's the children and the ones yet to be born. Because we have to make decisions for them. We've already lived. All of us in here. Everybody, we've already lived a life, but the ones that haven't been born, they haven't lived yet. And that's why every decision that we make should be for them, so that they can have a prosperous life. But those are the factors that that we face, and why it's so important that I know I'm harping on the education, but it has to be embedded somewhere. And I'm proud of those schools that are taking the initiative to now hear the truth. And I know for a lot of people in America, it's kind of hard for them to swallow, because it takes away that great history that you see on TV, where they bring in their cows, they build their nice homes, and then from there, they take the rich lands of America. Looks good, it takes away the fact that you killed people and you stole and you created laws unfairly, and you took this place. But like I said, we know that they learned that because they're from Europe. We know that they learned that because they came here and almost wiped us off the face of the earth. Because back there, they should have done that. And I want to end with this on this topic. And then if there's any questions, is that I got a chance to go back to France, Spain, Italy, and Germany. But Germany was a place that really gave us an eye-opener. So anyway, in Germany, we went to the map of South America, we went to the map of Africa, and so, like sometimes you just don't think, and I'm talking like about 30 years ago, I'm 60, going to be 60, so 30 years ago I was 30. So at 30, I'm not really thinking, but it hit me a few years after when we would go back through the discussions that we were in Europe. So if you take Europe, you take all the powerful countries, they're tiny. They're all stuck in a circle, and all these bigger countries over here. So what happened was when we were in Germany, we didn't know that Germany, Italy, France, Spain, and South America, they have all their ties.
Colonies.
Yeah, all their colonies. So when these ships were coming in, even in Africa, so when these ships were coming in, they were bringing, produce, they were bringing water, they were bringing, exports.
Bounty.
Yeah, they were bringing them to Germany. And then we sat back and we said, hey, wait a minute. How does this work? And they said, well, years ago, when we colonized Africa, everybody made a deal. We'll give back their land, give back some authority, but the one thing that they will not break with us is what they're committed in importing and exporting to us Germany. So I said, wait, you mean so you own lands in Africa that whatever they're producing, they have to bring it to you. That's the agreement. They go, yeah. And they go, oh, that's like with France, United Kingdom. I said, so in a roundabout way, I said, you still colonize that? They go, yeah. I said, oh, okay, like America. Like when America made tribal governments. So we have a tribal government here that we have leaders, but everything we own here and everything we do here still belongs to the United States.
And
So-
you cannot give any corporal punishment or anything, so it has to go through federal, isn't it?
Yeah, so when we learned about South America and Africa, I was like, wow, wait a minute, And they said, no, that's the agreement. So that's how Germany keeps out, France keeps out. They keep out of those countries because they have an agreement from government to government. So they let the African people run their government, just like we do here in San Carlos. We have our Indian people run our government. So I said, man, there's still colonization everywhere. They go, yeah, look at where Germany is. It's real stuck in between all these countries. So they got to get things, imported, coming in from other countries. And so that's kind of what I'm saying, is that we have to wake up, because we cannot allow what has been happening with colonization destroying the earth, our mother, and let it continue, because there's nothing going to be left. So just like what we're doing here in a real tiny, compared to like Africa, South America, and these other countries, real tiny, San Carlos or other tribes in America, real tiny, but we're standing up against the United States. As tiny as we are, we're standing up and saying, no, wait a minute. So can you imagine if, like, all of Africa, the leaders of African nations and all these places stand up to what colonization is? But the thing is, what they tell me is that everybody's so bought into it. All these stockholders, all the investments, and then you got your own people who have assimilated to, that will not look at your culture, will look at more of the culture of colonization and corporations, so they already have a culture. And then the last part of the whole thing is, it's like marketing. You can market out there for the next 10, 20 years. If you want to win a battle, start marketing it out there. So where we're losing already is these things, because all our children have it. I don't know about the other side of the world, but they're already are ahead of us, to where our kids, when we talk about what is spirit and what's life out there, this is what's spirit and life to them.
The telephone.
So what I'm scared about is what our children are going to be like when they're grandparents. What I'm scared about is what they're going to argue about when it comes to preservation of the earth. To them, this is it right here. So there's nobody policing it, and the corporation right now is loving every one of us because we have bought into it. So that's why I'm saying it goes back to what I said about the ball. When the first ball rolled into our land, and when Geronimo said, if you touch that, it's going to change you. We've all touched this, and we've all changed. And then now look back to how the youngest one that is using it now. So they already are ahead of us, way ahead of us. So how are we going to stop it? So if it's all over the world right now they've created, we're losing family. We're losing family. It's just going to be an entertainment. Our culture, our spiritual ways, a way that we still hold, in probably 25, 30 years, it's just going to be a show. It's going to be an entertainment. It's going to be, oh, we used to do this. We don't know what for, but we did it. Because look how much has changed from your parents, grandparents, to where you are today. Because it's the same thing with us. And that's why I'm saying that it's so important that the world gets this other type of teaching too, to know what we're risking. And for me right now, they're already ahead of us. They're already ahead of the game. Even though we think that we're doing something, we are, but they're way ahead already with this. So, if anything, we really, through this educational process about how important it is, I mean, defining what's important, defining what we agree on is something that the world needs to do, not just here. But if we all voice those opinions, voice those concerns, and unite as one, then there will be things. And then teaching, because those younger kids will become leaders in your country, my country, and then begin to hold things back. But if we don't teach them nothing, then we're also the fault of colonization. Because we feel it already. I mean, the pressure, I mean, I know you guys probably have went through it way before us, but I could feel the pressure. I mean, I could feel by just walking out this door, I can feel, you know, in a community setting, you know, you could feel it. I mean, like I even had to tell my kids, you come to the table, no phone. And I had to tell my grandkids, I mean, I couldn't tell my grandkids, I had to tell my kids. That's their kids. And said, no phone. You know, because if anything that's left now, I don't know about around the world, but one thing we used to say was the only time we had our children was when it was time to eat. It's the only time we could share on one plate. But now you can go in homes and they're, you know, almost everybody, you know, and sometimes even the parent. So we're losing that important part of what a family structure is. And so I seen it, and that's why I told my kids, I said, I can't talk to my grandkids, but I'm going to talk to you.
The thing is, we don't know about the kids, I don't know what happens here, but back home, no kid is going to have his food until he has this iPod or mobile phone in front of him. They're going to watch it and their parents are going to feed them. And these kids are like 2 years old, 3 years old, they won't eat. They just watch the cell phone, their cartoons, whatever, on these things. So exactly the same point in the other parts.
Yeah, so, and that's what I'm saying is that it comes back to colonization, it comes back to, because as you know, and I know you guys have known this, because when I went to Europe, when I went back, I guess about 35 years ago, and the first place I went to was Italy. So anyway, our hostess, he has a card, and the card's given to him of how many gallons of gas he can have for the month. I said, wow, so you guys all got a card? He goes, yeah, we all have a card. Tells us how many gallons we can have for the month. So we pull up to a gas station, and I'm saying, oh, it's closed. I go, no, it's not closed. And he pulls up, he puts that card, you know, in the gas pump, and then he pumps gas, and I'm sitting there like, dang, you know. Because over here, we still had people working at the gas station, pumping you gas, cleaning your window, and nowhere in America had that yet. So anyway, he says to me, it's coming to America. Technology is coming to America. So you're going to see soon. And sure enough, like about 10, 15 years later, we started seeing the machine. And then all of a sudden you see nobody working. So all of a sudden now, there's gas stations with nobody working. And we seen that like about 15, 20 years before it got here. So anyway, what they told me was that back about 25 years ago, they told me robotics was coming. And they're telling me that the computers are now going to begin to take over. So I remember going to work when they had the first computers, and I remember them saying that the sell to America was that these computers are going to help you with your work. They never said anything about home. They said your work. So that's where the people first bought into computers. And then now, it's at your home. And now, there's robotics. So what is happening is that, I don't know around the world, but here in America, nobody's policing what the computers, what robotic is going to do. Because right now, it's replacing everybody. So, when I went back to Washington, I asked, I said, you know, the biggest threat to America is technology. I said, technology, yeah, is good for a lot of different things, but the one thing it's not good for is the culture of a people. And inside the home of a people. I said, so now computers have now entered the home and now are being used for a lot of different things. I said, then the other thing is robotics. I said, I see robotics now taking people's jobs. I said, what happened? So what they told me was that going back another like 20, 30 years ago, when robotics was sold to the United States, when it came in as a discussion, they said that the goal was that the computers and robotics will take over and that people don't have to work anymore. And I mean, wow. And that was the first reason they gave. So they bought it. They bought into it, that people will not work. But what they didn't know was because there was no policing of it, that it went haywire. Now it's all over the place. Now they can't stop it. But they said the only ones that can stop it is the family. The only ones that can stop it is you as an individual. It's the only ones that can stop it now. Because it's already bought everywhere. But that was the intent, they said. So now if you look at, the robotic world, it's really replacing all of us. So again, it goes back to us as people. We what's crazy, we could police all these things, but the evil is so strong in all of it that it just
It's all over
overwhelms
the
us.
world.
Yeah, it just takes over. So now, as people here and around the world, we face it, and that's why these things need to be talked about. These decisions need to be made, because if not, it's gonna be too late. But anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about. What deceiving. Probably not only here in America, but everywhere else, how the deception has really destroyed the fabric of what was the intent of this world to be. And so all we got now is to educate. All we got now is to reach out and really teach the younger ones, because the younger ones that become leaders are the one that's going to make change, if we're going to stay within this frame of a government, what a government is. But it could be done. I mean, that's the crazy thing. I guess on this topic, I just want to end with that it could be done.
I wanted to ask Ravi to reflect. In India, is like 325 tribal groups are recognized. How is their land organized? Do they have sovereignty over the land? What's the arrangement? You've heard from Wendsler about the situation here.
Exactly, I don't know, because I'm not very much interested in studying this particular tribal groups in India, because some of my anthropological friends used to say they have a very difficult time. They are not so happy with the native management, because some third party enters and grab the land and can exploit.
So third party like industry?
Yeah, industry, particularly industries and corporates get in and they exploit the natures because they are gradually, those guys are migrating to urban centers. The old ones are still there, but their offsprings are unable to manage in their respective hill regions. The tribal management and the hill management is becoming very difficult in most of the countries, and India is no exception.
Yeah, I thought it's interesting to know. Any questions or comments on this part of the discussion?
So we both are from the same place, from India, but I came to America 18 years ago. In 2001 we came and we settled here. So the very first thing he asked me, because he still lives in India, he just came for this. So he said, how do you bring your children? Do they still follow Indian culture? And I said, yes. Then he said, how do you do that? Because when I see some other Indian families, they get assimilated to the Western culture. And I said, that's because we have to, as you said, from childhood, we have to tell the kids. So I take them every Sunday. We have to go to our temple. We have to pray God. So even now, my daughter is starting med school from this Monday. I went and gave a big God's picture. I myself, hang that on her apartment. I said, this is our God. Every day when you get up and you pray, you are going to be successful. So when you teach that, when you take them to the temple. And then Sunday was her white coat ceremony. Saturday we went and she said, Mommy, I'm glad you came one day before. Let's go to our temple and pray God so that I'll be successful in my medical college. she herself said. And then we took a Uber and we went to the Pittsburgh temple, and then we prayed, and then, so we came back. So it's, if we instill those things in our children from childhood, they are, yes, we have been living in America for the last 18 years. Of course, they got assimilated, using cell phones and stuff, and they'll be wearing modern dresses. I cannot tell them that you have to wear only Indian clothes all the time. They are not going to listen to me. They have to wear the jeans and shirts and, be like an American. But at least on the ceremonial day, and when we go to temple, and they know that we have to wear our Indian dress, and when there is an Indian festival, when there is something, they are so proud to call them as Indians. And we are still vegetarians. I tell them why we do that, what is our culture, what is our religion. And then, so those things has to come from parents also. It is very, very important. Yeah, very rightly you said, it doesn't affect, I like it. These are modern generation kids, and they are going to think that, I think this is so comfortable, I love this life, I don't need to, like my grandma, I still remember for our festival days, she would make all those goodies by hand, and she would have big, big barrels, and then our relatives come to visit us, and then we distribute the homemade sweets. Not anymore. Everyone is buying store-bought. No one is, so my generation, honestly, all those Indian curry, my mom still makes it, but I don't know how to make. So, but I love those food since I grew up eating them. So what I do is whenever I go to India, I bring, my mom makes that masala powder and I bring it. What if after my parents, I don't know how to make. I never learned how to make, but I'm so happy my mom is giving. So how about my children? Maybe we will depend on store-bought for some time. Afterwards, if there's no one who knows how to make the Indian curry, it's going to vanish. And then we are all going to be like Westerners, like in Western food, modern food, ever eating fast food. Because people are so used to it, they think that it is happening not only in America, even in India. People who live in India, they don't want to cook the traditional way. They think it is so hard. They want to just go to the store, buy the ready-made food. So the Subway, the pizza, everything has come to India too. So people love it. They said, oh my God, it's so easy. I can just hop into McDonald's, grab something, go to work and give it to my children. I don't need to cook. That is where the world is going. It is really scary.
I went to a place called Great Falls, Montana, and it was really interesting because it relates to like what you're talking about, like what we're talking about, but it's something that's happening right now. So you have this town fighting corporations. It was a really interesting conversation that I had with them because one of the things that they're fighting, and it's something that should have been done. I mean, when I look at what they're discussing, that should have been happening like when colonization was coming, like here, from the east to here. So same thing like with India, where colonization came in and how it was moving. They should have gave us a choice. The choice is that, do you want a community base or do you want a corporation base? See, nobody never gave us that choice. Nobody never gave us that understanding that there's a difference between corporations and community. Now, community is like what you're saying. Community is a base to where it's half-half. They will not get rid of the cultural ways. They will not get rid of the traditional spiritual ways. And then they will not get rid of the labor ways of how your food, the necessities that you have reaches the family. But corporation came in with destroying those fabrics. And so what I see that's happening right now in this town of Great Falls is that they're having to choose, and then you have those people looking at the cities of how corporations came in and have made it really easy for them. And then they see over here a community that's community-based, but what's happening there is that when these people moved there and made it a community and had their children, and their children went to the city to go there and get educated, they never came back. So you have that community dying. So because they're dying, now here's the corporation coming here saying, okay, we won't let your town die. Let us do this and do that and take this and take that. So a lot of these towns that are dying end up like giving into the beast, and then the beast comes over and he takes over. So what I see that's happening here, and that we're fighting big, you know, like there's mining all over us, and not maybe only about 10% of our people work there, but a good 90% don't work there. But I mean, you see them rolling with brand new trucks. You see them roll, you know, they got all this for what the corporation has done. But in the community base, you don't have that. Community, you have what a family is. But then you see them having it easy and everything. So it juggles the person's mind. Should I go over? Should I not go over? But you know, when it comes to Indian people, like here, you know, that's the big struggle. Is because we're trying to hang on to what family is. We're trying to hang on to what it should be. But corporation, you know, I guess that's where that word suppressing a person, suppressing a community, where they come in. But I think, you know, the big thing for me, I just wish that they would have been more educational to the people, whoever, or in our case, the United States government saying, hey, you're going to have two things happen to you. You're going to either live corporation or you're going to live community. That's where you're at, you know. But it never gave anybody the choice. So imagine where people don't have a choice and the corporation comes in and takes over, you just lost that community base. And that's kind of where I think that we lose our food, we lose our language, we lose everything because of demands. Now a man and a woman has to work. You know, now you got to leave your children. Now the oldest one's got to raise the children or the grandparents. But you know, it was like when I talked to my mother, she used to say it was never like that because she says, where I'm at, I'm the grandmother, I have you, I raise you, you raise your children. And then if anything, I'll know my grandkids. But then when the next one comes out, that's your job. You know, you need to know them like the way I know my grandkids.
Family.
But she said now it's like the third grandkid over here. Now they say I'm an elder and I got to take care of that child, and I'm old. You know, I'm in my 80s, and then this child doesn't want to be around old people. He wants to be around like you because you're a little bit more younger and you can do things. But who took that away? She said when all this white people came in with their work, talking about the mining, it took all that away. And now there's an argument. Oh, my grandmother don't want to take care of my kid. Oh, my grandmother, so that was never us. It was, there was a chain, a way of generations to be taught. She goes, because you should be the one teaching your kids how to do things outside because I taught you that. I'll teach your kids, but you need to teach your grandkids. Yeah, because I'm getting old. I can't be out there. But she said when this new way came in, it took away that family. It took away the family. So she goes, what I see is just that family is being lost, and she says, and it's scary. She was one day when we all, and she was saying corporate way of living. She said then it's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be chaos because now we lost everything that's family. She says because family is the most important thing. And so when those first people came, she said they lost their family, so they didn't care. So that's where the not caring came in, and that comes back to that foundation. That we're losing that foundation in every parts of the world. But it's important for us to really work in maintaining that. And again, I'll go back and say that I'm glad, that this institution, the university that we're all in, is now discussing that. And I like to see it becoming to a format to where it becomes a teaching tool. Because I guarantee you, those corporate schools are going to lose those to us. Because they're going to learn the real world. They're going to learn the real deception. And they're going to feel good about themselves. But it's going to take, it's going to take us to do it. And that's why, it's important that I felt like I participate in it because it's going to lead to something great. It has to.
At least in your native culture until now, the grandparents are in the picture. It used to be in India too, not anymore. Now, as soon as the boy gets married, the very first day he wants to go separately. He wants to live all alone with his newly wedded wife. And when they have children, they put them in daycare. And as soon as the parents get a little older, they say, okay, you either stay alone or go to an old age home. So more and more, Indian culture never used to have old age homes. Now every nook and corner, there are preschools, daycares, old age homes. Because nobody wants to live as a joint family. So the kids just come somewhere else, like city or move to a different place, and so the kids are growing up without knowing the grandparents. Even just the parents, not even the parents' brothers or sisters, or the families are separating.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I see that because it's happening here. Because like you said, we've always taken care of our elders.
Right.
We've always taken care of our kids. You never see them out there, homeless people.
Yeah.
But we got a small shelter, but you see it, kind of feel it that it's going in that direction. That they're not taking care of the grandparents that still can take care of themselves. But yeah, we see that through colonization coming this way, and it's scary. And that's why I'm saying, like with my kids, I can say that my children will take care of me, like I did my mother. But man, I don't know if my grandkids will take care of my children because of this technology. And that's why I tell them it's important that you teach your kids that there's responsibility.
So your mother is still here?
No, she passed. She's 88 years old. She passed a couple of years ago. But yeah, so she was raised by her grandmother, who comes from the 1800s. So I know that doesn't sound far, but for us, 1800s was like a long time ago because they didn't start changing us till like 19 when we became prisoners of war, 1985. Well, actually started in 1965, but by 1872 to 1875, they had all the Indian people in here. So, but my mom was raised, so she would talk about how her grandmother, what kind of freedom she had, and she would say that we'll never ever have that freedom as a people that we once had, and we'll never ever experience it, but we'll only dream about it. So it's really sad because all we can do now is dream about that freedom and that way of life that was discredited as that we're pagans and we're people who had no spirituality and all these other ugly things that were defined, But and I see what she means because, like for me, I can only dream. And those are my grandparents right there. That's my father was named Paul Nosie. His father was named Willie, and so that's Willie's parents. So those are my great grandparents that were brought here as prisoners of war. So I didn't get to see him, but my older siblings got a chance to see him before he passed, and my mother got a chance to know him. But you can imagine, them coming as prisoners of war here, and how drastic it was. But, like you're saying, it takes us being responsible and try to keep implementing that into our children so they don't lose it.
Correct.
Yeah, because if you don't, they're going to lose it. I mean, because the dominant society is just so strong. And it's easy. I mean, it's an easy life, but it's not a perfect life. It's an easy life. And in the meantime, it destroys everything else. But yeah, I think we're in that same boat that we got to do what we have to do with our children, because if not, and that's why I'm so afraid of these technology, because it's even taking those younger ones away. Because you tell me you want to go outside and see the river, and they say, oh, wait. There's still, and I'm like, man, like I said, we're the oldest in this colonization. I mean, youngest in this colonization. But look how quick we caught up. We're losing our children totally, to all this technology that quick.
I got a couple of questions. Firstly, when you were talking about your grandparents and you were got up, so you came here like in this place only after like were you born here or stuff like when after they were prisoners over here as you call them. So were you always in this place, this specific place, or some other place?
Okay, well, first my grandparents came from the Chiricahuas. It's like 160 miles from here. That's where I originated,
Okay.
where my family comes from. So he was brought here as prisoner of war in the late 1800s. Okay, from the 1800s he had my grandfather, and then my grandfather had, had my dad. But my mom and my dad, the lake is Old St. Carlos. That's where they brought everybody as prisoners of war. That's where they brought everybody. They centralized them. But then in the 1900s, early 1900s, when they were going to build a dam, they allowed the people to move. So where I'm at right now is where my parents moved to, and then this is where I was born. So I've been here since the time they brought them as prisoners of war.
Second question is a bit out, but you were talking about something and you said something about retirement or something, if I heard correct. Was it to do with retirement or like right now you're the chief, right? How you are? I think if I misunderstood or something, was it to do something with the retirement of chief or something? You mentioned something about retirement in your age while you were giving your talk or something.
Oh yeah, well, there's two forms of leaders.
Yeah.
Okay, the United States made the tribal government. Okay, the tribal government is elected. Okay, then you have your natural leaders. Okay, so it's kind of funny for me to say it. It's better when somebody else does it, but I'll say it. So I'm a natural leader among my people.
Yeah.
But I was also a leader in the tribal government. Yeah, I became the chairman of the tribe. So I retired out of here.
Okay.
Yeah, so I retired here. But here I still do all the great work, across the country with Indian tribes.
So there's, as it is with our country also, there's a certain age of retirement. When you reach that age, you're forced to retire. Or
Well, here in the tribal government, no, I could have stayed there until the people quit electing me.
Okay.
So I've been there for like 36 years.
right.
And but see, you hit a ceiling, like any kind of job, you hit a ceiling. But that ceiling for me was the federal policies against the tribe.
Right.
And so, because some of my people assimilated, you know how politics is. So it's hard to deal with them. So as I stepped out, nobody can hold me now. So over here I have more of the Apaches fighting against the United States on the policy. So what I'm doing is actually going to make this better. Yeah. So that's why I retired to move here, so that I can fight the United States on federal policies.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why I retired. Yeah.
Excuse me. So, like, nowadays, many multinational companies, like motorbike companies, use Apache as their motorbikes name. So, like, according to you, is it okay that, like, fine for you all to let them use your tribal name as their product name?
Several things. Okay. First one. Deception. When I said how nothing is true. Okay. Our real name is Inne. Inne is our name. It's not Apache. So first of all, they're not marketing our name. It's Inne. Inne Shlani Inne. Inne Kuninya. I'm gonna go. Inne in Apache means the people.
People.
Yeah. So our Apache word for us is Inne, and we are the people. So even though they think they're using our name Apache, and we're not
It's a very
Apache.
popular bike in
Yeah.
India and other places.
Yeah. So they have Apache.
Pulsar Apache.
Yeah. So our real name is Inne. you know.
Ordinary bikes cost you 60,000 rupees. If it's Apache, it's 1.5 lakhs. For the people, as you said.
Yeah.
The people have to buy the costliest.
Yeah, so we're Inne, so like we speak our language, Or like other tribes, you know, like you go to the Navajo, they'll say, "Ne kuninya," you know, we're gonna go see the people. Or like in the Eshlini, I'm the people. So Ne, that's our name. So Apache, supposedly, from what I know, they say it came from the Spaniards when the Mexicans, well, first the Spaniards came Apaches, and then from there, when the white people came in, they took what the Mexicans were calling us, Apache. So that's where the Apache name came from. So Apache is not in our, and it's supposedly, I think it's Spanish it's called, in Spanish it's enemy. So when Spaniards said, you know, Apache, you know, the enemy.
Enemy.
Yeah. So that's what the Spaniards say. But yeah, so Apache is not our name; it's Inne. Inne is our name. But we are known as Apaches throughout all over the world. So I'll just give you an example. When I went to Italy, at that time Bill Clinton was the president, and Segovia. I think there was a war going on in Segovia. It wasn't too far from Italy.
Serbia, yeah.
Serbia, yeah. It wasn't too far from Italy, like across.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I went back to Italy to speak about our Mont Graham and against the government of Italy. So when I got there, they had all these reporters, but they told me to be ready because right now America has the Apache helicopters. The Apache helicopters are killing a lot of people. So they said, be ready because the media is going to ask you, how do you feel about the Apache helicopter over here killing all these people, and it's your name. So they told me be ready. There's probably going to be a question from one of the journalists, you know. So anyway, sure enough, they raised their hand and said, they asked me, you know, how do you feel that you got Apache helicopters over here and it's killing all these people under your name? Then I said to them two things. I said, first, I said, what I just told you. Our real name is Ignan. I said, it's not Apache, it's Ignan. I said, but they do call us Apache. And I said, but let me tell you this. I said, aren't you guys happy that you have the real Apache in Italy? I said, that's just a helicopter. You have the real Apache in Italy. That's a deception. That's a fake. I said, that's not us killing those people over there. I said, you have an Apache. And everybody clapped, you know. I mean, but America, you know, again, it's deception. You know, it's all this deception that they put out there. And just like what you're saying, how much more expensive to buy the Apache name,
Yes.
you know, when it's a deception. Because they're really, you know, if they say, well, they're Apaches, you know, we named them after the ones in Arizona, I'll say, no, those guys are Indian. You're falsely advertising because that was given to them by the Spaniards. That's not Apache, you know. The real story behind that Apache name is enemy from the Spaniards. But if they would put in man, then it is us. Yeah, so anyway, you know, I guess you kind of have mixed feelings. You know, like the first one for me, it's not me, it's not us, you know, because we're in man, you know. And then you kind of laugh at America because, you know, they really harp on that name, but we're really, you know, in man, you know. They call us something that we're not, but it became all over the world that we're Apaches. So first, I don't really feel anyway. Then the second part, I'm like, well, wait a minute, you know. The rest of the world knows us as Apaches, you know, and that, so we have to just come out and say it's not who we are, you know. That's not our name. Our name's Inne, you know. So the right one is Inne. But yeah, it does bother you, know. It does bother you, but if you really know, again, you know, the history, you know, that was given to us from the Spaniards. You know, it wasn't us that said we're Apaches.
It's sort of interesting because there's also a famous bike called the Indian.
Yeah.
And Indian is actually from American Indian, but the Native Americans are not Indians. They are Native Americans. Columbus made a mistake, yeah?
Yeah.
So,
you know, so when we see that Indian, I don't feel angry about it because it's like, it's not even us, you know? But it goes back to deception, you know? I mean, even that is being a deception right now. You know, it's not even true. And that's what I mean. Now you can understand why I say, you know, America has to fix a lot of stuff because America is untrue on a lot of things.
So you mean that the founding of America by Christopher Columbus is just a fake deception or fake rumor that has been around the world since the discovery of America by the British regime?
I'll say a good 80% of everything from the time Columbus came here is all a deception. Because the only reason why they came here was to take all the minerals, resources back. Because we had a tribe, Apache, well, going back to Apache again. There was an Apache tribe in the history book called the Membranes Apache, Membranes. So they're membranes, not Apache, but again, the title Apache Membranes. So anyway, what happened was that they ended up working with the Spaniards, and they were the first Apache Indian people that were eliminated from the face of the earth. So what happened was that they would take the gold down to the Gulf of Texas, and then right there they had the boats that went back to Europe. And so what they did was that they would kill all the membranes that were carrying the gold and silver, whatever they were taking to the boats, kill them all there, and they went back to the camp and killed all the families so that nobody would know where they were getting the gold. So America was founded on the resources to take back to the European kings and countries to keep their empire going. So it's just like anything else that they did in Europe. When they went all over Europe, taking all the richness, controlling all the areas. Well, when they came to America, they did the same thing, but it was all for the natural resources. It wasn't to stay here, because they were killing everybody. I mean, at will. And then, like the Mexicans, I don't know how much you know about the Mexicans, but all of the Mexican people, all their mothers were Indians. You know, so we look at them, the Mexicans in Mexico, we look at them as our family, because all the women got raped, and then that's where they produced what is Mexicans today, because they were all raped. You know, so for us, we look at them as family. I don't know how they look at us, but for us, you know, they came from the women of the Indian people, because Spaniards, you know, they took them as slaves and did everything to them. But the same thing there, though. See, they didn't kill them all, so they were able to resist. But again, Spain controls Mexico too. Spain is influenced with Mexico because they allow them to resonate just like the Chinese, just like Japan, Africa. They didn't eliminate them. The only place that they eliminated indigenous people was here in America, because they eliminated us totally. So, so in Mexico, there's still Mexican tribes that speak their language like us. So like here in America, we'll speak our language, but we also speak English. In Canada, the Indians up there, they speak their native, but then they also speak French. And then in Mexico, there's a few tribes that still speak their language, but then speak Spanish. So, Spanish is a foreign language that comes from Europe. So even, so like we have this immigration issue right now, and a lot of them are falling into Trump, but we're like, hey, wait a minute, you guys came from indigenous women. Why are you letting Trump say that you belong in Mexico? You all came from your great grandparents were victims from the Spaniards. So it's just that Spain's language came across and it became the dominant one, just like English is the dominant one in America, and then French is the dominant one in Canada. So you could see who controls. You could see where France controls a lot of Canada, Spain controls a lot of Mexico, and then the United States fighting for that independent yet to be different from the UK. So you can see colonization. I mean, it's just clear as day. It's like there it is. But yeah, anyway, it's I can imagine what it's like for everybody. It's a struggle around the world, but it goes back to that colonization. That's why we really need to call it out. So like for us, evil is not what you see in Halloween. Evil is not what you see watching a movie. evil is that colonization of corporations. I mean, so we really have to show the people of the world that the evil of this world is corporations have gone too far.
It actually relates to a question on the Skype that was asked, saying that how do you see market extraction? It's another form of colonization. I think you probably agree with that. That was what they were listening to you and made a comment. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back to, I mean, not just me, goes back to all of us, is that when we were born, the Creator already gave us something. You know, what the Creator gave us is already knowing what's right and what's wrong. I mean, we already got that. I mean, I guess it's like, I don't know, buying a bicycle. You already have it to work. Now, if you change the seat for a bigger seat, then you change it. But it already works. So the way it's told to me is that, you know, what the Creator gave us in our heart, it already works. It's already there, you know. And then they would say, you know, like my mother would share with me, you know, what is the greatest journey in life? You know, you can ask that to a whole school of class, and they'll give you probably 100 different answers. You know, what is the longest journey in life? And that became a question for us, because what colonization interfered with is right here to right here. Now this became the longest journey, because in your heart it already tells you, it already says to you what's wrong and right, because you already have two great things. You have your heart and you have your spirit.
What you already just said about the Creator gave you things, that's what you believe. That's in part of our Islamic belief also. As Muslims, we also believe that when we are made or something, God has given us this thing, the brain, which differentiates us from an animal, that we can choose the path which we want, whether you want to choose the right path or the wrong path. So there's already something in your mind which is already there created.
Yeah.
And according to that, you choose, and that is linked directly to the other organs of your body which you work with. That's why the most important thing that's there, which has been there created, is your brain, which is differentiating you.
And that's why, you know, with all this colonizations that's happened and confusion that's came in, it made this the longest journey, because now sometimes this don't get here anymore.
Exactly.
And now you're thinking with only this, and you're not thinking with this anymore. So that's what really scared us too, because now this is the longest journey, because a lot of people will not get there. And then that goes back to when we talked about leaders in our country, when they make the really stupid decisions. I mean, like even, you know, looking at Trump, the way he talks, we know a lot of it is here, but we know a lot of it is not coming from here. He has a disconnect. And so, you know, and that's scary when you have people leading with this and not with this.
You need both of them.
Yeah, you need both of them. And that's what we say, you know, that's how I was taught too, that, you know, the Creator, like this table, I mean, it came with to assemble it. The Creator's not going to come in a table for you, you know. No, He gave you a mind to learn how to put it together, you know. But He also gave you a mind and a heart to know when enough is enough. And that's when it comes to corporations, is that they're disregarding what is enough is enough. They're going by this here and not by this here, because nothing else matters anymore. From those that live on the earth, the things that are underneath the earth, a human being. I mean, all that don't matter to them. What matters is what is here for them.
Right.
And then that goes back to technology, because a lot of technology is all here, but they're going to give it to you and say, well, here, you know, here it is. Here. You're like, you know, so now it causes your brain, not your heart. And that's what I'm saying, that it's so scary when it comes to the children. Because see, we're talking about it, we know there's a problem, but who's talking to our children to say that, be careful, you know, this could kill you, you know, who's saying that to them? And that's where we're saying a lot of this technology is just feeding here and not here. And then it's out here that's going to feed you.
They don't even know how to talk to people by looking at eyes.
Yeah, and that's why we're going to see so much more problems. But I think that's why I think, like even with Mr. Mercer, I think he's blessed. People like him that who are trying to bring in the educational field, or not just in the educational field, but trying to bring this information together, because we have to save what's left. And institutions have a responsibility, you know. But then when you're bought out by corporations, they're not going to teach it. So we have to be smart about it and know that they're not going to teach what we see the way the world is right now. We have to bring that reality to our children, and that's why it's important, you know, when it comes to that upbringing of our children, that it eliminates a lot of things that we're talking about. They'll put things back into perspective. We'll have something more solid. But, you know, and then like with me, I'm glad sharing this day with all you guys, because it confirms for me that we're on that same trail. And it's kind of like riding a horse. You got to pull that rein back to stop the horse and say, wait a minute, you know, where are we going? You know, this is not a good trail, because this trail leads to destruction. You know, it's going to destroy. Let's create another trail. You know, we need to move the people. And that's the children. That's the thing, you know. I have to go back to the children. If we're taught that the real educational part of what tomorrow is going to be is our children, you know, we have to put our energy there, whether you're a parent, grandparent, or in the institution of teaching. You know, because don't teach them the truth. Okay, like the United States flag. It's crazy. You go to a football game, like we go to the Cardinal game. So now they're going to do the national anthem. So my family, we're Apaches in there. We're all sitting there, and everybody stands up. And then everybody says, "Hey, what's wrong with you? Look what America did for you. Aren't you American? If you're not American, go back to where you came from." You know, they say all these stuff, you know. And I'm looking at them like, what? You know, how uneducated they are. So finally, one of the white men that was sitting beside me, he sat down, he goes, "Why isn't you guys stand?" And I looked at him and I said, "You mean you don't know?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "Tell me." He goes, "Well, why don't you guys stand?" I said, "Look at the flag." I said, "How many stars do they have in that flag?" I said, "Those stars represent every land they took away from us. Every land that they killed our people on. Arizona has a star that when they put our people as prisoners of war, when we all became prisoners of war, when we're all captured, then the United States Arizona finally became a state." So under that flag, my great-great-grandparents, they all died. So you think I'm going to stand up? I'm not going to stand up, because that flag and that anthem was never made for us. It was made for the colonizers. So if you want me to stand for that flag, then do me a favor. How come there's no stars when they went to Vietnam War, when they went to war against Japan, you know, when they're in Afghanistan, wherever they were at? How come there's no star in that flag that shows that they went to war? How come it's just us? It's like that flag is to slap the Indian people in their face, like, you know. And I'm like, if you want me to stand? I'm one person, you shouldn't even bother to ask me to stand, you know. If we knew that a flag meant more to you, if we knew that a flag was everything of your loyalty, if we knew that when Christopher Columbus came, we should have snuck out there and put a flag out there, so we would have went the other way. You know, because if we would have stuck a flag, oh, there's a flag, people are already here. Let's go.
Find some.
Yeah, let's go find somewhere else. There's a flag over here waiting. I said, if we knew that, we could have stuck a flag out there so you guys don't come here. I said, that loyalty is that much to you. I said, if the United States is really a country that is for the people, then there's only one loyalty we have, and that should be all to the Creator. You know, of how we all should work together. Not telling me I got to stand for this flag, when yet, you know, Arizona then become a state until a star went in that flag.
So I got another question since you got this point. When you go to the game and these people do say stuff like that, you'll discriminate against you, what do you say? Do you just remain silent or something, or if you give them an answer, is there some sort of an argument or a debate starting, or how do the reactions take place?
No, I've been in. I mean, I've never stood up and anybody who's tried to start an argument when they find out. I mean, those smart ones, when they find out we're Native Americans, they shut up. But then those who want to look ignorant,
Troublemakers.
yeah. Then when I tell them, and they I mean, they'll say, and some of them are high at the football game. So some of them would say, I'm like, oh crap, here we go, But then with that beer-looking face, looking at you, and you're kind of surprised, because then they're looking and say, you know what? I would do the same thing too. And then they turn around and look at the game. So, if Native Americans stand up and not be afraid to say, then they won't say much. And that's why I keep saying that, if America leads, if a lot of these environmental issues and cultural issues and injustice issues are involving Native Americans, like if the African Americans involve Native Americans, we can get a lot done. Because when it's just them, there's a fight. But if we're involved, that's the deception. That's the lie. Because see, they can't afford us to be out in front, because now what I just said, all Americans will learn about the flag and say, eesh, that's not a good flag. What the Native Americans are saying is true. We conquered their land, and we just, like, it's like the knife, the knife that kill us, you're putting it there, So real quick, they get away from us. They don't want us to go public with it, because if the young ones remember the young ones, if they get educated on this, they're going to say, hey, why did we do that for? Hey, they're right. But see, all the old ones, they're already set in their ways. They're pro-American, they're not going to change. The ones that, like I said, call themselves Americans and forget where they came from, those guys would be really hardcore. But everybody else would have to take a step back. Even their own children to say, they're going to have to make a choice. Oh, we're proud we killed them all and took their land. Oh, wait a minute. That's not a way to represent this country. So we give them a choice. Native Americans will make them have to look in the mirror. But any other culture, that has come here, they can't. But Native Americans can be the ones to do it. That's why if there's any kind of movements, it's good that they include Native Americans, because we have a lot to say. And that's why, I'm involved with the Poor People's Campaign, because it does give us a platform to educate everybody in America. And so that's why it comes back to what I was saying, I'm 26th on the list, and why they're afraid of me, because we could change the course of America if those opportunities keep opening up. The more people get educated, the more, and that's why I'm really excited about tomorrow, because all that hard work about deception, all the hard work speaking at the universities, all the hard work in Congress, now they're using my stuff in the university. So now with that PhD, tomorrow we're really concrete that avenue, because that's kind of what colleges have been waiting. So actually, I wouldn't say one of the universities, but one of the professors were talking to me and telling me that it's a really concrete, the avenue of them teaching what we've been doing now into the institution, because it is, it is a part of the American history. It is a part of the history. But see, that's what I'm saying with what Mr. Mercer has done, has really elevated, this level of argument, and it's going to be exciting. But yeah, it goes back to deception. I can't get away from it, because if you think about your own country, it probably is built on deception too. And here all the truth is bottled up, but here's the deception. And so that's like I'm saying that if we can do it here, break it down, and build a better foundation, then it can be done anywhere. Because look how I'm gonna have to say, but look how stupid Donald Trump is. But look how much he's doing in European countries. As stupid as it is, making a lot of damages there too. So if you can imagine something great coming across the country, it could do a lot of good for everybody, you know. And we just all need to be on the same page.
Thank you very much, Wendsler. Looking forward to tomorrow, and thank you.
Oh yes, yes, thank you all.